Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be doing a video with a competitive FIFA player. This is a player that's been in my streams for a very long time. He's been watching my content for a while, and he competes in this game, competes in tournaments, plays for top 100. He's been in top 100 quite a lot over the past couple of years. So I wanted to get his point of view as a competitor in this game in terms of the pay to win concept, how the tournaments are run from EA, because I don't know how people qualify in this game to be a professional, or how it works nowadays. I know that Nightwatch was telling me earlier that in previous years you would get top 64 monthly for a qualifying month, and then that's how you would compete. But apparently it's different nowadays, because I've seen some people, and there was one tweet again I saw from Gorilla saying how it's really weird how some of the NA guys have more of a chance than a lot of the really good EU players, because there's a lot of really good EU players and maybe not so much NA players to go and compete at these tournaments. So I just want to Nightwatch's point of view in regards to that, because I know nothing about the competitive scene. So I'd like to know about the competitive scene from a person who's actually in the scene. So just introduce yourself, Nightwatch, and then we'll just go from there.
So, hi guys. I'm Nightwatch, Ivan, but like people in the scene kind of know me as Nightwatch. I'm a competitive player, like kind of like you were like you weren't really a competitive player, but like 3, 4 years ago I used to grind the game as much as you. But like I took the the more difficult path of like making this a bit more competitive and like eventually going pro. Like was my goal to go pro, but like it just kind of went that way. And yeah, well, that's about it. Being competing like at like the high level for like 2 years, or at least I try. And yeah, I mean, every year it's kind of a roller coaster regarding qualification for events, the way events are ran. Every system is different. Like every year, the way to qualify is different. The spots are different. Everything is it's kind of there's no consistency. Like generally in FIFA, we don't have consistency, be it with gameplay, be it with like competition, be it with like the pay to win aspect of FIFA. Because like in my opinion, every year pay to win becomes more and more effective. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because like we mentioned that earlier a bit. You have players that, for example, Phil, you know who I'm talking about,
Yeah.
a competitive player, streams as well. He had he did a Twitter post with his team on FIFA 17, 18, and 19 at Team of the Year. And like you can see the difference on FIFA 17, he had icons, a Team of the Year, red players like meta players, etc., like the Julio de Vieiras. On FIFA 18 as well, kind of a similar team. And now on FIFA 19, he has one Team of the Year Messi and one CR7.
So for
So the pay to win,
some people are be like, "Oh, he only has a team of the year, Messi and Ronaldo." This guy that we're talking about, streamer wise, he's a guy that actually plays the game a lot, and he's already played enough games that people will play less than in a year than he already has in the game. And this guy is a consistently good player, always performing really well in FUT champs. Not necessarily nowadays that much, because he doesn't have that meta team just yet, but he does get results every so often. But it's like very inconsistent because of the team that he currently has. So that's where Nightwatch is going with it. Yeah, sorry, keep
yeah,
going.
exactly. No, exactly. Because like, the thing is, I myself have put a lot of money in the game, and like, the only reason I've put so much money in the game is because on one side I've made that money from FIFA, so it goes back into FIFA, so it doesn't affect me, my life, or how I live it.
Mhm.
Because like FIFA for me is like, in a way, it's a side thing because I'm a student currently. And the money I've put in FIFA is like, in a way, a sickening amount when I think of it, but it's the only way in order to fully be able to compete this year on FIFA. Because like Phil, he is not a worse player than I am. Definitely not. He's one of the best players I've played this year. Like games with him, considering especially the team difference, have been very close. Like the games I've edged or have been drawn on or he wins are only like this because of my team. Like if we have the same team, he definitely wins most of those games, definitely qualifies for most event than I do. Like I don't think this year from the 8 qualifiers we've had, I'm not sure if he's qualified for an event, maybe one. and like he's a better player than I am, in my opinion. And I've qualified for 2 events. Given I've only qualified at the start, since then I haven't really qualified, but still I've qualified for more events than he has, and that is mainly because of my team. And that should not be how an esport is ran. And I'm saying this from a perspective where I'm benefiting from that fact. Like, I'm benefiting from that fact that the game is pay to win because I've put money in the game. I have a very good team. I can compete. Like, I can, if I have flaws in my game, I can kind of not notice them because my team carries me. Whereas other players who have strengths in their team, they're gonna be flawed because of the players they're using. So that is generally not fair in my opinion. Like, it should not be like the only reason you should put money in the game is like for some um customization for like boots or fans or pitch or kits or whatever. Like Fortnite does it, or
Cosmetics.
like
Cosmetics.
exactly
Yeah.
cosmetics, like skins in CS:GO or whatever. That's the only reason you should put money in the game. And I don't know if maybe it's not as viable for EA. They've made the calculations, most likely, but like we see how much money a free game like Fortnite, because like lately we've been comparing FIFA and Fortnite a lot, like regarding competitive, regarding the game itself, the way the game is ran, the way they listen to the user base, etc. There's a different like there's a different way to run FIFA as a business then make the game pay to win on a competitive esports level, because like obviously they're pushing the game in that direction. And I don't agree at all that every mode in the game should be competitive. I assume, like, I know that's how you think as well, because you don't have a fun casual game mode.
Yeah, so the thing that, like, and I mentioned this in the first stream, and we're gonna touch on it, is basically that the whole entire game right now is based off of competitive, but it's based off of a competitive in a game that isn't competitive. First of all, because of its gameplay, and second of all, because of the huge significant difference a team actually makes to some players, right? Like you said, Phil SKS, guys. I've seen Phil SKS's streams before. This guy knows how to play football, man. This is not a guy that abuses the game mechanics because he doesn't have IQ. He definitely does have IQ. And the fact that Nightwatch literally just told me right now that he hasn't qualified for one event is embarrassing, because he's a very, very good player. And this is the type of guy that, if it's because of this finesse shot meta and this manual goalkeeping bullshit, and because he doesn't have the team that requires him to go ahead and compete for these competitions, is for me personally complete bullshit, because he's really, really good at this game. We're talking about this guy can adjust his playstyle to different things, and even Nightwatch can probably attest to that, because I've seen what he can do, and he's just genuinely a very good player. So the conversation that we're having right now is whether or not the game is pay to win. Now, the pay to win aspect in this game, and this is something that I've explained in the past, and I think Nightwatch may or may not vouch for this. It really depends, right? The pay to win aspect is more relevant for someone who is good at the game than someone that is decent at the game. But nowadays with FIFA, right, is that even if you're decent at the game, if you have a better team than someone who is good at the game with a worse team, you can now compete against him because of the way that the game mechanics revolve itself around nowadays, right? Before, back in the day, if you used to play FIFA 15, for instance, right, still had inconsistent gameplay. As no matter what anybody tells you, the game engine is not the problem with inconsistent gameplay, because that game had it too. I used to complain about it back then. But in that game, right, you did not have to have the meta of only having players that are tall, have the pace, the defending, the physical. I can use Christian Atsu as a center mid, and he would be good as a center mid. Because yes, obviously the game was revolved around pace. That's a given, absolutely. But even if they nerfed the pace, you wouldn't necessarily need to have the defense and the physical in those years for it to be effective. So that's why if you had a lower tier team and someone had a really good tier team, you would still have a chance of beating them, because it wasn't a significant difference. There's also the other thing in terms of just attacking positioning, the runs that your players makes, right? Like, I use a Team of the Year De Bruyne in a draft one time. And the one thing I noticed from him, and again, this is the team that I'm using right now, so the difference is disgusting, right? And the one thing I noticed about Team of the Year De Bruyne when I was using him as a cam is, one, the defensive presence and the physical presence that he had on that Team of the Year card was massive. Two, his runs were all intelligent. Every single run he made was an intelligent run, and it was disgusting, right? When he ran into space and he knows that it wasn't a good enough space, he would stop, go back, and get into a better position, right? And the biggest thing, and for me personally, this is the biggest thing. I can keep the Son, the Firmino, the Salah, and the Hazard, but if the thing in this year specifically, the biggest thing is you need Patrick Vieira and Ruud Gullit for those two CDMs positions, because I noticed that in this game, all the CDMs suck until you get those two cards. Because I've used at least the Ruud Gullit one time. It wasn't in this year, but it was in last year's game, and Patrick Vieira in last year's game. And even in last year's game, there were CDMs that you can use, I guess, to compensate for it a little bit. Sure, you have Fabinho and Conte nowadays, but you're missing the height, the weak foot, the strong foot, the passing, the defensive boost, the physical boost. The height with the defense and physical makes the biggest difference. So is the game pay to win? Absolutely. And in a game that is completely revolved around meta nowadays, where division rivals and FUT champs are your only regular game modes, with FUT draft being its only game mode that is a flawed game mode in itself, right? Because it's 15k to get nothing back in return when you win in the finals, right? I haven't gotten shit in this entire year so far from playing drafts, right? And with this inconsistent gameplay, it doesn't help at all to put 15k in a game and then your game is being sluggish, right? It's just an annoyance everywhere, in my opinion. And I think that this game, in a competitive sense, is completely revolved around the team that you have. And I think Nightwatch is the type of guy, right? That he's like me. Is like, and I face people in the past where I'm just like, dude, if this guy had a team similar to me, he would destroy me. And that's the mentality you need to have. You need to be better when you have the better team. You need to be significantly better, right? Because I think I saw from Sean Nightwatch that you faced Sean in one of the tournaments recently, and you even said so yourself. The only reason why you beat him was because of the team that you had, right?
Oh yeah, like we were playing, and like first game on, like I see his team. I see three like center midfield based players. I'm like, he's gonna play 4-1-2-1-2 or like 4-3-1-2, and my guy is going with 4-4-2, playing Kroos at left mid, and I'm like, wow, okay, I can deal with that. And he was playing so good, he was wrecking me with Kroos. So just like second game, I started exposing Tony Kroos and like managed to turn it around, being 3 goals down. And the only reason I won was because I had a better team, and like I had an R9, and he had like Tony Kroos and like Hazard. So my R9 scored a hat trick and like literally won me that game. And like that should never happen. Like it should not be a thing in a competitive scene. And like we like, even you mentioned it, like with the meta, and like how in previous years you didn't have to have those specific players. Like FIFA 15, 16, 17, you can beat a full icon team of a player who is decent with a gold meta team, or like the best bronze team if you're a pro player or you're a very, very good player. Like that could happen. Like Gorilla did it, Harry did it in Weekend League, and a few other pro players. I don't know if you've seen these videos and like challenges, but even in competitive modes where you could do fun challenges, like you could challenge yourself to do something that was unthinkable back then, just to do it, and you could actually do it. This year, you cannot do that. Like you cannot go in Weekend League with a bronze team.
Yeah, Harry himself said that recently, that he would never try the bronze challenge in division rivals because he know that he would get screwed on if he were to do that.
Exactly.
But in previous years, he was able to use a bronze team against people in FUT champs and everything, because they would. I wouldn't even necessarily say. I think he did it for 18, but I wouldn't even necessarily say for 18. But as much as I've hated FIFA since FIFA 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 because of inconsistent gameplay. I love each game when the gameplay is good, except for this one because of the time finesse shot meta. But using a bronze players in previous years, you were still able to perform well, because the way that Harry would set up his team is it would be based off of pace and dribbling. That's how every single person in his team was. His fullbacks were about pace, his center backs were about pace, and his goalie was, God bless his soul, I think he used a gold goalie just to at least have someone that's not garbage, right? And he would just use the rest of the team bronze, because the pace and the dribbling was enough to be able to, okay, as long as my players can somewhat respond to what I want them to do, then we're okay. Finishing wasn't necessarily the best in 18, right? It was still a little bit annoying when you got into a good position and the goalie made the leg save. That was really stupid. But the finishing in 18 was way better than the finishing than it is nowadays in FIFA 19. That driven shot meta was way better. So when Harry played, and I've watched those videos of him doing the bronze challenge, he shit on people by actually doing passing plays, not overpowered mechanics. He had to still break down the person's defense for him to score. He would never take corners. He would never try to cross. He would try to cross the ball once in a while just for the lulz, because crossing is random in general. But he was still able to do it. But nowadays he said so himself. He would never do it because it just wouldn't be ideal to do in division rivals. He knows he's going to lose he's probably going to lose all of the games, because it's just really hard to even pass someone with a physical presence in general, especially if his gameplay doesn't feel that fast, right? That's a huge one, right?
Yeah, of course. Like, just how the game revolves around this year, like around the meta and the pay to win aspect, is just unbearable for the casual if they match a very good team. Like, because of the team I have, like I remember 2 years ago when I went full road to glory, and like 6 months in I had the Hullet, the Vieira, the Ronaldo, and like I built that team from rewards and from being good, and still having that team did not guarantee me winning every game, because that's not how the game worked. And like getting messages like, "Oh, you're paid to win," made you feel kind of good because you've grinded
Yeah, it
towards
made you
that,
feel good. Yep.
and you've actually you have a sense of achievement. Whereas this year, it's just impossible unless you pack like icons left, right, and center every week from rewards. You can't get that team. Like the only way to compete, because like that's where we're revolving around right now, like the competitive and the pay to win aspect. You cannot compete at a high level if you don't go pay to win. And for me personally, I think that's a big factor. Of course, when the gameplay is bad, even the top players feel shit. But like if let's say in bad gameplay, a Vieira feels like a Fabinho, and bad gameplay, a Fabinho feels like a Bronze.
Exactly.
And and that's the
Exactly.
difference. And that's the difference people fail to realize sometimes when they say pay to win. Oh, but my players still take shit touches. Your players take shit touches, but like the shit touches of your god players are like god touches for your opponent's players. You know.
Exactly.
So so that's
Because the thing that people say, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, because the thing that people say
yeah,
is
no.
that if you're using a rare gold card, they're like, oh, my players are starting to feel like his players. No, his players are going to feel worse than the players he has right now, as it is to yours. So if you're, like you said, if you're using a Patrick Vieira, it's going to feel like a Fabinho. If you're using a Fabinho, it's going to feel like a bronze card. He's not going to still feel like Fabinho. He's going to feel worse than a Fabinho. That's a
Exactly.
very
Exactly.
important point.
Exactly. So sadly, that's like, of course, you've talked about it on your last podcast. You've talked about it in the past. Fucking sorry for swearing, but like
No, you can
in
swear.
the
Don't worry about it.
past 4 years, like it's a lot of the problems in this game come from gameplay, and sadly, instead of like fixing this main issue in the last 3 to 4 years, we get more and more problems, be it pay to win, be it finesse shot meta, be it goalkeeping, be it pay to win, be it esport competitions, be it lack of content, be it anything. Like instead of focusing and fixing the issues, what happens is they either ignore the issues, or like I know you've watched Kurt's video, like I saw your reactions on. They kind of put placebo patches that make some of the casuals think, oh, they fixed that. They said they fixed it, so it must be fixed. It must be my problem. No, like they said they fixed tackling. I actually thought I felt a fix in tackling the first game I played, which coincidentally was against Kurt. But like 5 games later, back to square one. Finesse shot meta. Like there's one specific player that takes finesse shots left, right, and center from 35 yards out, and that's the most viable way of playing at competitions. And like when there was the first patch that like supposedly fixed finesse shots, like that specific player was in a crisis. How do I play now? How do I finish? And like 5 games later, he realizes nothing has changed, so everything was back to square one. And the thing I got from the gameplay developers, like they, like I'm aware a fix is coming, and like sadly, the patches on FIFA are not like patches on Fortnite or other games that come immediately. They need approval, etc. So something they've wanted to patch, let's say a month ago, is going to come out in a patch next month, and that's a lot of time in
Yeah.
a game that's a yearly cycle. That's like 20% of your game, like somewhat. And especially for competitions and tournaments, you're not aware, but like when in your opinion is pay to win the most viable, at the start of the game at the middle or at the end of the game? Obviously at the start, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially for you guys, because you guys have to compete, and I think they do
That's
the
what I wanted
competing
to
in
say.
the first
Exactly.
month, right? Yeah. So
Exactly. They make, because this year you have approximately, of course, 12-ish events to qualify for, 6 FUT Champions Cups, and like 6 licensed qualifiers, etc. And like from those 12, 8 have already passed. So come Team of the Year, like the first 2 months in the game, 8 of these qualifiers are gone. So even if theoretically you could build a good team with rewards, which is not possible, God bless them, even if that were possible, you would not have the time to build a good enough team to compete at this level. So everything revolves around EA as a business and not FIFA as an esport. And like obviously they're trying to push that narrative with the game modes in the game, be it rivals, be it weekend league, be it no daily knockout tournaments or like any tournaments or any fun mode. Like they try to push that narrative of competitive and esport, which I I normally wouldn't mind, as you know, I'm a very competitive person. I always strive to be the best at what I do if I'm passionate about it. But like even to me, this game is not fun. Like I don't know if we mentioned it in the last 15 minutes or before
no,
that.
we didn't mention the
No,
15. We were mentioning in the video because we were doing a
exactly.
podcast before, but the voice thing. So what Nightwatch is going to say right now is about whether or not professional FIFA players even have fun with the game, because people who play Call of Duty, play Fortnite, they love the game, right? So when they play professionally, obviously they're going to perform better. They're gonna really grind out the game because they love it, so they perform better. So you can go ahead and with that one.
Exactly. Like you just said it. No pro player, or like let's say out of 199 of them of us don't like this game.
And
Like
you know that from experience, right?
I know that from experience. I've
Right.
talked to people at events. I've talked to I talked to people in the community, and no pro player likes this game. Like the base mechanics and the core of this game is not enjoyable even for us. Even for us as competitive players, like I hope that nobody thinks that we as pros enjoy scoring 35 yards first time finesse shots because that's the most effective. Most of us, like casuals, pros, competitive content creators, we love we love the game, like the game as a football simulator, because we love football. And exactly because we love football, we cannot love FIFA 19 because FIFA 19 is not football.
Yeah.
Like you like the only because I try to, like last year, every year I play FIFA, I try to compare what I play to what I see on TV. And for example, Air Japes, like sadly he doesn't play a lot of FIFA anymore. Lucky him. He tries to replicate on FIFA what he sees on TV, and that is not possible on this game because what I see on TV is not effective on FIFA, and what is effective on FIFA you will not see on TV. The only time I've seen a first-time finesse from outside the box in the past 2 months I've watched football is Aubameyang scoring a first-time finesse with his shoulder to goal.
I remember which one you're talking about. He hit it to the right. He hit
Exactly.
it to the right side. Yeah, I saw that one.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the only time I saw that goal. I'm like, oh, FIFA 19. And like next second, I thought that's the first time I've seen this goal in months, or like since I can remember, unless it's on FIFA, where I see it every single attack. Like every single attack, somebody tries a finish shot from outside the box, and like we're not gonna go into gameplay, the mechanics, etc., because everybody talks about it. You've talked about it, podcasts, etc.
Hmm.
But it's just not fun for us pros. Even last year, and I never thought I would say I want FIFA 18 back. But compared to FIFA 19, FIFA 18 was like, wow, like a paradise.
And
Like,
it sucks to say that because FIFA 18 was also dog shit. Like
exact,
that's what's bad,
exactly.
is that it was also because here's the thing, and this I really need to bring this up because I feel like people really always forget, okay? People always forget, and anyone who could vouch for me who watched my FIFA 18 streams when the game first came out, regardless of the gameplay being inconsistent, good and bad, I liked that game when it came out. I mentioned 3 or 4 different things that needed to be changed, and if they changed those things, the game would have been awesome, right? But every single year of FIFA, and this is whether people are like when people bring up like FIFA 16 or 17, I personally get triggered because as a content creator, as a guy who's been around this community for a long time, I remember the shit talking that happened when those games came out. Every year was the worst FIFA ever. And let me tell you guys something, okay? It has been shit since FIFA 15 and onwards. And 14, again, gameplay inconsistency has been a thing for a long time. But 14 could have been a good game if the heading wasn't so overpowered. If the heading wasn't so overpowered, 14 could have been a game. But the last good game, and even though those games as well were also inconsistent, 13 was the last good FIFA game. Okay? In FIFA 15, people were like, oh, but FIFA 15 was so good. No. When that game was being played, people didn't like it. And I remember telling people, this game's inconsistent as well. I love FIFA 15 when the gameplay was consistent. Loved it. Oh, I loved that the goalies were shit from 1v1s. I loved it because when I passed a person's defense, I got rewarded for it. I hated the body feint meta. It was the shittiest thing in the world. I wish they took it out. I wish they nerfed it at some point in the game, right? But every FIFA has been shit. So it's not a thing of like, oh, I'd rather be playing 18. I'd rather be playing 17. I'd rather be playing 16. No. Every game has been shit. But what Nightwatch is saying is that in comparison to the meta, in terms of what's overpowered and what's not, the stuff that was overpowered in 18 was way better than the stuff that's overpowered in 19. Because 19, the football IQ is gone. Because it's just about getting into a position and then hitting a finesse shot. I literally come up against people in division rivals who are not trying to break me down. They are only going for finesse shots the entire game. And that is ridiculous. Okay? So in 18, 17, 16, even though those games were terrible, you still had to play with a football IQ. You still had to, at least a little bit. But nowadays, just like, just hit finesse shots all the time.
Exactly. Like, even, I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, it's Stallion. He's kind of as passionate about FIFA as you and I. And, like, he occasionally bothers to do posts that make you think and realize how right he is on what he says. The skill gap this year, and he put it that way very well, the skill gap this year is on being able to hit the green time finesse and not on having the correct decision making.
Right.
And like that's the best way to put it. Like for me, like a skill gap game should be in mechanics and in thinking, but a lot more revolved around thinking than mechanics. Whereas this year, it's revolved around like the finesses and the greening of the time finishing. Because if you green your shots, it becomes a kind of unrealistic power shot or long shot or whatever. That of course it rewards you for putting the time and effort in the game into mastering that aspect, which is not as hard as EA thought initially it would be, which I assume they thought it would be a very difficult thing to master. Well, actually most Gold 1 players and above can consistently hit green. Whereas because of this feature, the skill gap in decision making and breaking people down and having a footballing IQ, etc., have gone to shit. Genuinely have disappeared. Like if you go into skill games, like, because I know at the start of every FIFA, you as a player and as someone who wants to know how the game works, you go in the skill games and you practice the different types of finishing, etc.
That's the first thing you're supposed to do, yeah. On every single year, yeah.
Exactly. And because because lately people ask me, like, how do you play this game? How do I get better? Like, some friends who don't know anything about competitive FIFA, etc. And I just tell them, go in the skill games, go in the attacking scenarios where it's 2v1 or 2 versus the goalkeeper, and practice shooting. And when you've seen how 1v1 work, start taking finesse shots from outside the box. And like, people come back to me 2 days later, like, I'm playing a new game. And like, I feel bad because I've ruined the fun for them in a way, because they're used to trying to play football, but now that they know how effective first-time finesses are, or like finesses from outside the box, you just stop trying to build attacks.
Because you stop playing football. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't go on a game to lose, or like you don't go in a game not to win. If you play a game, of course you're gonna try to have fun, but you want to win.
Yeah.
And like, FIFA is not a game where you can lose and have fun. I know you've touched on it, so we're not gonna go in details. But like, FIFA is not a game where you can lose and have fun, and that's because you have to exploit things that are not fun
It's
in order
because
to
of the
win.
way that Foot is set up nowadays. That's why that's a
Exactly.
concept. Yeah.
It's a very complex thing. I assume it's purposely made like this from a psychological point of view for user base, for addiction, etc., etc. So no way we can cover or like properly discuss any of these aspects in the game. But just the whole aspect of FIFA as a game, as gameplay, as content, as anything. The thing is, what hurts me, like you can kind of put it similar to gameplay. Like you hate shit gameplay because you know how good gameplay can be, and I hate how FIFA is right now because I know how good it can be. I know how good the content can be. I know how good the gameplay can be. I know how good the viewership of events can be because we're playing a football simulator, like football, the most popular game in the world. We can have that as an esport, have it as one of the most watched things on the internet as an esport. Of course, we're far from the levels of games like Fortnite and League of Legends, but we can be up there. And like it pains me because I know how good this game can be and I see where we're at. Unless there's a promo like Team of the Year where FIFA gets like 300, 4,000, like 400,000 viewers on Twitch, FIFA gets jack shit views. Like nobody cares about FIFA because nobody cares about gameplay. And everything people care about is packs and in-game content, as in menus. You should tune in on FIFA for the football aspect of it. If you want a card collecting game, of course it should have that aspect. But you have Hearthstone for that. You don't need FIFA to be a card collecting game. Like go play Panini stickers, wait for the World Cup or the Euros. You can go on FIFA to have that feeling, to have the strive of getting special items, cards, or whatever. But that should not be your main focus. That should not be your motivation. Like my motivation to hop on a game is like, oh, I'm gonna do this SBC, and like this player's gonna play shit, but I don't care because it looks good. Because like I don't focus, me as a casual, not as a competitive player. I don't focus on how a player plays, but like I focus on the fact like Zlatan Ibrahimovic came out. Okay, he's a very meta card. Like let's say he wasn't. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, a lot of people's favorite player. You want to play with him in game, but if he's not meta, you're not gonna enjoy him that much, and you don't have a mode where you can have fun, so you're just not gonna use him, and it just revolves. It's all so connected, and nothing makes fun in the game. Like that wasn't English, but you know what I meant.
No, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying completely. It's like the stuff that I touched upon in the last podcast, that like there's players that they release, and if Ibrahimovic is not a meta player, then it's not a fun card to use in the game in general. And the fact that there's the 100 or so few cards that you're supposed to use and the thousands of cards that you don't use, like for me, the greatest sadness that I have is not using more than one team, because I can't. If I use a different team, I know that in division rivals I'm gonna be screwed. But I miss rotating, and actually, and it was crazy because I miss rotating with 8 different teams and actually getting bored with those 8 different teams because I wanted to use more teams and more different, or more formations, more tactics to try out, because that's what football is about. You have to be able to try out different things, and I wanted to get like a Liga NOS team of the season, and so on and so forth, right? The new Zlatan card, from base card stats, it looks like it's meta. I haven't seen it from specific in-game stats. I'm almost certain that his agility and balance is trash, but in terms of the physical aspect that Ibrahimovic is, and he probably has the weak foot, the skill moves, yeah, maybe the card is more meta nowadays. But let me ask you a one-up question, right? So we've talked about how making coins nowadays is more difficult than making coins in previous years because of the way that the gameplay content is set up in the game, where if you don't use the market in terms of trading, you're not really going to make in-game rewards. If we look at the game from a perspective of this, chat, how much does that Ibrahimovic cost SBC wise? Okay, because the thing that we have to take into consideration is, 1, he plays in the MLS, and 2, he plays for Sweden, right? So those 2 by itself, right, is just not an ideal situation at all, right? So we're talking a player that you're spending 200K on with bad links, because you're not going to get any Swedish links and you're not going to get any good MLS links, right? You have to have legends in your team for you to be able to use him. Or, maybe if there's one MLS player that you have to get lucky with to be able to use them. Maybe that'll work out too. But 200K, to be honest, if it was like last year's game and the amount of coins you got for last year's game, 200K coins for me personally, I don't think it's too bad because they had divisions back in the day, so you play the top 3 divisions, so on and so forth. So I don't think it's
4
too bad.
4 days, you have it.
Yeah. So, but 200K nowadays, I wouldn't spend 200K on the Zlatan Ibrahimovic because with that Zlatan Ibrahimovic, you need to get links around that card, and it's just for me personally, it's just not worth it because the way that the gameplay content is revolved around, right? The question that I wanted to ask you, Nightwatch, and this is the one that we were talking about in the podcast before the mic was cutting out and everything, is, and I'm not in the scene, I don't follow it, is how do people compete in FIFA? Because in previous years we were talking about how if you are a person who hits top 64, right? That's what you said, top 64 in competitive.
Yeah.
That's how you compete for the competitions. If you get that for monthly, that's how it happened before. I saw a tweet. I think it was from Gorilla. Don't put that as a fact. No, don't put that as a statement. I think it was from Gorilla saying that NAs have more of a chance of qualifying than the EU guys in terms of the way that the system is set up right now. So could you explain the system to me right now, how people compete for the tournaments nowadays? Because the fact that Phil, SKS, hasn't competed once yet this year pisses me off personally because he's a friend of mine in the community and he's a fantastic player. And the fact that he's not in it just says heaps and bounds about this game. So could you explain how it works, please?
Yeah, so it's a pretty complex system from scratch. Well, specifically for it was Gorilla for that tweet. That qualification was a competition that's gonna be run. The competition itself is gonna be in the US. So for that specific competition, they allocated more spots for the US qualifiers, which they took from the EU. So that's what Gorilla's tweet was aimed at. And they were not taken like 2 from EU West and 2 from EU East, because like Europe is separated. They took it from only one region, which does make sense. Even if I benefited from that, I didn't qualify, but like my region benefited from that because we had the same spots, whereas their region had a lot less spots. NA had more spots because like the competition was in NA. Most competitions are in EU, so from scratch, like from the start, we've had a set amount of spots, which maybe were so much because the competitions at the start were in the EU, but we didn't know about this. And then there was a competition in Asia, which has more spots for the qualifiers in Asia because it's ran there. So the qualification allocation for spots is a weird one. How qualification works, I think it's a bit more fair than last year because the deserving players will go in a way that last year it was kind of random with matchmaking in weekend league because you can beat in 160 games, you can play 160 shitters. Sorry for the term, but like 160 not good players by cherry picking. I admit I did as well because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage if you don't do what other players do, be it time finishing, be it cherry picking, etc., etc. If you play 160 bad players, you could qualify for an event. Whereas some other player could probably not cherry pick or be unlucky or get a DC, and that way not qualify for an event. Whereas this year, if you get 27 wins in weekend league, you're verified for the whole year. So you compete in these qualification tournaments that I told you about. And at the beginning, they were okay because there were not that many players. And at the start, it was a new thing. You only play pros, so you know it's an event level competition in order to qualify. You know it makes sense. You play the best players to qualify for an event where the best players play, right?
Right.
Makes sense. But the thing is that the more weekend leagues go, the more players get verified, the more these qualifiers get saturated. So what happens is at the beginning you had to go 4 wins and 2 losses in the group stage to get out of the groups and get in knockouts where you have to win 1 or 2 rounds maximum. What happens now is you have to go 6-2, 7-2, 8-2, depending on the region on the console, then win a couple rounds in the bracket to qualify for the event. And this is against top players. So from a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, you can play up to 14 hours of FIFA against the best players in the world and not qualify and not get a single point for the global competition throughout the year to get you to the playoffs, which is a very flawed system. Add to that the fact that the game is pay to win, so players like Phil SKS cannot qualify for an event because of the massive team difference that gets even bigger and bigger and bigger if he doesn't spend money, which he doesn't. So the chance of him getting to an event becomes smaller and smaller. Add to that a player like Tex, who has qualified for every single event from the start of the year. When was the first qualifier? I think it was the beginning of November, if I'm not mistaken, or the end of November. Since that weekend, Tex has not had one single free weekend. Every weekend for him, because he has qualified for every event, is either a qualification weekend or a weekend with an event. You had 3 events back-to-back weeks to qualify. Then you had, or like 4. Then you had 3 events back-to-back, 2 in Bucharest, 1 in London. Then you had 2 more qualification weekends on Christmas, like the weekend before Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, and on the weekend 2 days before New Year's. You had qualifications, then 2 more qualifications the first 2 weekends of January, then 2 more events, etc., etc. Like, if you want to compete at the top level, you have to be a robot. You have to be a machine. Like, you have no rest. You have players taking breaks from competitions and qualifiers because they need to see their family. They need to have a rest. They need to study for university, and that's kind of like, it's your problem and mine if you want to study and play and like study and work, basically. Like, you should not complain, but like, you have to have some sort of a social life, some sort of a break, because like every weekend qualifiers is exhausting. Like, we're 4 months in, nobody likes this game. The game has major flaws. Patches are irrelevant, bar bicycle kicks, elastico, and maybe 1-2 other small features. The main ones that are not fixed are kickoff, time finishing, tackling. The game is not fun, has flaws, competitions are flawed, and like, most of all, players, competitive in this case, don't have a break. I know that casuals are kind of more happy because Weekend League went from 40 to 30, but like, in my opinion, these 30 games on FIFA 19 are worse than the 40 games on FIFA 18. Because like, on this FIFA, 30 games on this FIFA, for me personally, are a lot more exhausting than 40 games on last FIFA. I don't know how much people agree with this, but it's just about the meta, the concentration you have to put in the game, the anger you put in the game, which is more than you usually did, because you have flaws in the game that exist for like years and they're not fixed, and this obviously like accumulates in you, like, oh my god, they still haven't fixed kickoff, or like, oh my god, 3 patches in, they still haven't fixed finesse, or like whatever it may be. You just don't have fun in this game, be it as a casual or as a competitive player. Like, I know my brother, he's 33 years old, he plays FIFA very casually with his friends, head to head, career mode. He doesn't know what Ultimate Team is, he doesn't care. Like, they have fun when they get together, and when they go online to play against someone else, and they match up in Division 8 on head to head with somebody who does time finishing from outside the box, like, how are you meant to have fun in that? Like, at the start, it's fun seeing a couple bicycle kicks, seeing a couple screamers, but like, when you see that every game, like when people discover that's the meta, it stops being fun. And like, for me, FIFA has not been fun this year, although I admit at the start, I thought I was a fan of this game. I thought moving the goalkeeper and time finishing would bring a skill gap, but I underestimated how easy it was to learn, how overpowered it was, and how unrealistic it was. I actually thought at the start, oh, moving the goalkeeper, you can kind of outsmart your opponent. I didn't realize moving your goalkeeper in combination with the AI, in combination with counterattacks and everything, how bad this game actually was. There was one point I actually thought I liked the game, but like, now, like, I look back on it and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, I was just not informed enough about how bad this game actually is to realize that this game is not good. So I changed my mind because I actually saw how it developed, and like, that I'm like, I can say I'm passionate about this game. I want this game to be good. and I do not like it. I have more than 1,000 games on this FIFA, maybe 1,200, 300 across both consoles on total, and I'm not having fun. Like, I do it as a chore, or because I love football, and that's the only outlet I have if I want to spend my time playing a video game that is a football simulator. And because of events, qualifiers, and weekend league. Because also one thing that you probably don't know, for the global leaderboard, every point is vital, right? At the end of the year, you can miss out on playoffs by like a few points, right? The thing is, every weekend league you play gives you 10 points for this ranking, getting 27 wins and above, which was okay because it rewards you for grinding week in, week out, but it makes that mode even more stressful for players because for the casuals, weekend league is the more chilled mode.
It's the most
compared to
casual game
rivals.
in the game
Exactly.
right now. Yeah.
Exactly. But even at this point, if you try to compete, weekend league, you also cannot have fun there because if you miss out on 27 wins, you miss out on pro points, which could cost you a spot at an event. So this also, like, you get the fact that you get pro points for weekend league where you can get DCs, etc., and matchmaking is random, and you get 10 points for that. Whereas if you play 14 hours of qualifiers and you lose in the last round, beating the best of the best of the best, and you get jack shit, it's a flawed system.
That's where I saw that from. People were saying,
Exactly.
imagine playing a full day of FIFA and getting absolutely nothing for it. That's true. I remember that because the first comparison that I would make in terms of competitive FIFA was basically how in Call of Duty, right? Like if you go and play for these UMG tournaments when they're getting their versions of pro points, right? Even if the guys lose in top 4, in top 2, they still collect their pro points to be able to go ahead and compete for the tournaments. And when I saw that on Twitter from someone, I can't remember who it was, but they said that, wow, I played a full day of FIFA today and I lost in the semifinals against people who are, because it's like you said, you're basically playing like 14 hours a day, right? And you have to, the biggest part, the most exhausting and mentally exhausting thing that people don't understand is the waiting part. And that's something that, like, when I used to watch Call of Duty pros play before, CS:GO pros as well, when I used to watch like back in the day when Shroud was on C9 and stuff, right? The thing that they would complain about the most is they're like, dude, the most exhausting thing isn't even playing the game. The most exhausting thing is having to wait for other people to finish their games and then for us to go and play our games and then play again and then play again and then play again, and it just all adds up, right? So, dude, I can't imagine what it's like to be a pro player in this game, because if I were to play this game professionally and the only way for me to make pro points was to win the whole thing in a day where I'm spending my entire day, which you said is on a weekend, right?
Oh yeah, it's on a weekend. It's
That's
every
just stupid.
like
That's just so
in
stupid.
7 hours. In 7 hours at 2 p.m. my time, I have a qualifier that is probably going to run until 10 p.m. my time.
No, that's just
And
ridiculous.
at that point, like, social life on Saturdays mostly is out of the window. If you make it to Sunday, it starts again at like 2 p.m. And depending on your region and console, like I'm kind of benefited because I'm on Xbox on a smaller region. If you're on PlayStation on a saturated region and you make it all the way, you have from Saturday at, let's say, 1 p.m. until 10 p.m. at night, and then if you want to make it the whole way, at 1 p.m. on Sunday until 10 p.m. on Sunday. And then imagine going all that to lose your last game. Imagine going that way to lose to a kickoff goal or like to some bullshit in that game to make you cost that spot, which could even not get you money, because at events, like the way sometimes the money is split, you can get top 16 on the event on your console on a FUT Champions Cup, which is like the after the playoff. It's the second. It's the biggest event. Like, you have 6 FUT Champions Cups. Like the way some tournaments, the prize pool is set. Like you can have, you can get top 8 on your console and not get a single dollar.
You can get top 8 on your console and not get $1?
I'm going to give an example. The last event I was at, because the first event where we were at, just to qualify, if you go out in the groups, you get $500. If you go further, 1,000, 2,000, 8,000, etc., etc., etc. And we thought that's how the structure for Foot Champions Cups, because that's that tier of event. You have
That's like that's by itself is still not good enough to make professional
course,
FIFA good
compared to
enough.
games like
But you're
Fortnite,
still
etc.
making money from at least going to the group stages.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
making some money, etc.
Yeah.
Then you had the next event, because we all thought, okay, set prize pool, that's how the money is going to be. You just don't put it in question. Of course, the further you get, you also get pro points. That's a given, that does never change. But the prize pool apparently depends on organizers, right? Like the people that run the event. So 2 days, we're already at the event, like in the city, and we get told per email how the groups are going to be. They're going to be different than what we're used to. We've never seen that in FIFA before. We have a losers bracket that is not a full losers bracket how you know it. It was a half losers bracket. So imagine the knockouts. You have 4 rounds, right? Like round of 16, 8, 4, 2, 1, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a normal losers bracket, if you lose in round of 16, you have to win the whole thing and play the grand final against the winner of the winners bracket, and you have to beat him twice, right?
You have to beat him in a best of 5 twice. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, or best
You know
of
what I mean.
yeah. I know what you're talking. Like in Call of Duty, CS:GO, they all do the same shit. Yeah.
Exactly. That's how it should work.
Yeah.
The losers bracket we had was, if you lose in the round of 16, you play the lose bracket in the round of 8, and then you get to the round of 4, like quarterfinals. And if you gotten there, you play the guy, like that's where the losers bracket ends, like that's where it joins the winners bracket, which in itself, it's weird. I mean, it's
That doesn't
acceptable,
make
but it's,
any sense.
wait. If you're from the losers bracket, you still only have to win 1 game. You don't have to beat him twice. You have to beat him once. And what happened, because you have, if you look at the bracket, you have 4 of these scenarios in the 4 quarters of the bracket, right? That's how it works. So you had Dax, you had Tex, you had Dax came from loser, right? So you had Razek, you had I think it was Megabit, you had Tex and one more player that were in the winners bracket in the quarterfinals. And they were joined by the losers bracket quarterfinalists, right? That's how the bracket worked. And what happened was, in 4 of these matchups, 3 of them were a repeat of what already happened previously in that bracket. So the thing that comes to mind was, in my quarter, Razek had already played Dax. And what happened was, Razek had beaten Dax and had sent him in the loser bracket. So Dax beat his opponent and got to a rematch against Razek, and he beat Razek. And Razek, losing 1 game against Dax and winning 1 game against Dax, was out of the competition with $0. Yeah.
What? So he didn't
Exactly.
even wait. He didn't even play a second series against Tex?
Well, he didn't get to Tex.
No.
Dax got to Tex.
Dude.
It was Dax and Razek.
Dude.
Yeah, they didn't play a second game.
So
I think it was
the score between both of them, because Tex came from losers bracket, when Tex beat him from losers bracket, was 1-1.
Not Tex, Dax, but yeah, the concept is the same. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, Dax came from losers bracket, faced Tex, and then it was 1-1, and then the person who lost that game was out. And from the winners bracket.
Yeah, it was not even 1-1. It was Texas in another bracket. So it was Dax against Razek. What happened was, Razek beat Dax and he sent him in the losers bracket. So it was technically 1-0 to Razek. So Dax comes back from the losers bracket. Okay, fair and square. Then they play again. What happens? Dax beats Razek, so they're 1-1.
And Razek's
out. What happens is, Razek is out with $0 because of how the prize was also set for the competition.
Then what's the point of having a losers bracket? That makes no sense. There's no point of even having a losers bracket if the person doesn't. That just doesn't. I thought it was Tex. So it's Dax.
Yeah, you have, and then of course, like, then the semifinals, you don't have like a best of 2 and like going onwards. So it was absolutely shambolic. It was
I
I mean,
seen that. I seen that on Twitter too. When someone was like, "Wow, imagine someone going to the losers bracket. The losers bracket beats you when you beat them first." Now I remember where that was from too, man. Oh my god,
exactly.
that's
So,
disgusting. And he gets no money.
nope. That's how that's how that specific event was. Like, it was the
Which
combination
round?
of
Which round did he go out from?
he went out in the quarterfinals. Top, I think it was. I'm almost positive it was quarterfinals. He was, yeah, he was top 4 or top best 8 players at the event from 32 in the world, and he did not get a single dollar for it. He got pro points.
I can't believe this guy. This guy literally went to a competition for fun, bro. He didn't even go there to compete at that rate. Because obviously, you go to
Yeah,
compete. It's his living. What the fuck?
yeah. So
Oh my
even from this point of
gosh.
view that you are not aware of because you don't follow the competitive scene and you don't care about it, which God bless you. Like, wow, I envy you at some point. Um, even from this point of view, it's shambolic. Like, you think you have it bad with content and gameplay? I mean, wow. Like, it's my hatred towards what the game can be and what it actually is unimaginable. Like, the things that, oh god, like the things that exist in this game, the things that should not be in the game, in the esport, in the franchise, in anything, is just, if you try to explain this to somebody who doesn't play FIFA or doesn't follow esports, they would genuinely not believe you. Like, it sounds absurd. It just sounds ridiculous. Like,
If you
it,
told a Call of Duty pro, listen, you're gonna go to losers bracket, but if you beat one person one time, you're back in, and the other person loses.
after
That
he's beaten
concept,
you.
after he's beaten you and sent you to the losers bracket, bro, they would just look at you like you're an idiot. Like they're like, bro, are you sure you're not reading it wrong or something? They would actually look at you like you're stupid. Like they would
Exactly.
genuinely look at you
It's,
like you're dumb.
and I know it was I am aware, like, the organizers, they tried to do something new. They wanted to see how it works. They want, like, they're probably not gonna do it again. Hopefully they won't. Like, I know it's a testing, but like, there's there is a limit of testing. There is a limit of trying out new things because this is just plain stupid. Like, like, I assume it was discussed. I don't think like just one person came up with the idea and like
Yeah, it's
imposed
an
it. I
organization
assume it's
thing.
discussed. So why there is not one single person saying, guys, um,
This doesn't make
what,
any sense. This doesn't make
what?
any sense.
Like, even the lowest person in the, like, the hierarchy of the structure of the organizers should be like, guys, I know it's probably not my, like, it's not my place to speak, but like, have we considered that if no other esport has ever done this, it's probably for a reason.
I can't
It's
believe that, dude. Dude. Listen, man. Even without me, and you know this, man. Even without me knowing about the competitive scene or anything about it, or like, because you know that I, like, when I analyzed those pro player games, those were the first times that I watched those games. I never saw the clip of what happened to. I never saw the clip of what happened to, like, to Mo in the handball with the goalkeeper. I
oof.
never saw any of that, right, on Twitter, because
Yeah,
again, my Twitter timeline is completely muted. Sometimes certain tweets seep in because you know when one person you follow, when they like someone's tweet, that tweet goes on your
yeah,
timeline.
yeah.
So that's why sometimes I see it, right? But from a person that doesn't pay attention to competitive, I wasn't interested in it before, but it makes me even less interested now, knowing that that's how the format is. Knowing that there's a format of a pro player having to play every dude. I don't know about people. Listen, man, I know that FUTchamps is a thing in this game mode, right? But even before, when I stream, and Nightwatch could attest to this, even before FUTchamps was a thing in FIFA, my weekends, right? I wouldn't stream that long on the weekends because on the weekends my family was home. I want to go hang out with them. We're gonna go do some stuff, you know, because everyone's working, everyone's doing their life, right? Because everyone needs to be making their money. That's what life's about. You gotta make your money, right? So it's just ridiculous that you even just told me that you have to play, like Tex, for instance, God bless his soul, he has to play every single weekend against the best players and have to qualify in that manner only against the best players for 7 or 8 hours a day on the weekends. And especially in the afternoon, when that's the time where you literally go ahead and have a life, bro. People who are very successful in the esports scene in any other game would find that to be the most unacceptable thing ever. Obviously, there's a grind concept when you're a professional player. You have to obviously play. But especially on the weekends, that does not make any sense that you have to play every weekend to gain your points that way. And when you lose in the quarters or the semifinals, you get nothing. Or do you even get points for losing in the finals in those weekend tournaments?
Fuck that! Like,
you don't even get points for
Funny guy.
losing.
If you don't qualify for the event, like you can out of because there was this one qualifier for a smaller tournament, which paradoxically has less spots. Does make sense, anyways. For a smaller tournament that has less spots, there was this one region on this one console that had like 500 and more players for 4 spots. So out of these 500 players that are Elite 1 caliber players, Elite 1 to top 100, out of these 500 players, you can be 5th and not get a point? Imagine.
Dude, that's just insane. The fact that you make no money just from the tournament, that you make no money from being in top 8 is ridiculous. Like, I'm just thinking about that concept. You travel somewhere and you get top 8 and you get nothing. Bro, people in Call of Duty who get top 16 always get something, bro. Top 16.
To be fair, for argument's sake, that was only this one specific tournament. And even then, it should never happen. But it was this specific tournament.
Which tournament? Who was the organization of the tournament?
It was the competition. Like, I'm not gonna bash on the organizer because we have yet to have 4 events there. One of them is, I think, next week or the week after. So they're probably gonna do better, a lot better. So I'm like, of course, like even with this podcast, we had issues. So it is a learning for everything. But there are some things that do not belong in that learning curve. So we'll see how they do it. I assume they'll do it better, because if they don't,
so that was just for one tournament.
Yeah, that was specifically, as I said, for one tournament, because the tournament before you had $500 to qualify. Since then, we haven't had an event of that caliber to compare. So we're yet to see how it's gonna go. But I think after the backlash they had at that competition with the prize pool, etc., they're not going to have something similar again this year, and rightfully so, because we already are, compared to other esports, very underpaid. Because I saw a guy asking in your chat, do pro players get 6 figures or like
no
50K?
They don't. No, they don't.
Like 50K? Like, I fucking wish. Like,
no, they don't. I know a lot of pro players, and they tell me exactly how much they get paid. They do not get paid 50K. They don't.
Exactly.
Maybe the higher tier pros.
Exactly.
Sure, the higher tier ones. But even then, 50K is what you have to be making in life nowadays to have a sustainable life, because shit's like so expensive. My thoughts towards that, right? And this is why, for me personally, I wouldn't ever do the game competitively, because we're only, like, right now we're only looking at the game in a competitive point of view. And you said that you do school on the side and everything as well, right? My point of view is, I would never do it in general. Like, even if I was good enough to qualify and all that stuff, the format in which EA does these tournaments, it wouldn't be worth it. It just wouldn't even be worth sacrificing my life to be a pro FIFA player. As a content creator, sure, because there's like a long-lasting effect to it, right? If you're a Twitch streamer or a YouTuber, I could see why, right? Even if you qualify, it's part of your content. But as a pro player specifically, why do you do it?
See, the thing is, for starters, I don't consider myself as a pro player.
Okay.
Like, I'm not sure that's what I want to do in my life. I like the FIFA scene, like the opportunities it gives you, be it commentary, be it playing, be it analyzing, etc. But like, that's something yet to see. The reason I play FIFA, I play so much FIFA, I compete, etc. There are a few. First of all, I'm a very, very competitive player. Like, I'm just a competitive person, be it football, be it any other sport, be it anything regarding to anything, I'm competitive. Like if you give me a puzzle and you put a person next to me and you're like, you get a biscuit if you do the puzzle first, I'm gonna do that puzzle as if my life depends on it. Like I'm competitive. The game, secondly, is addictive. No doubt about that. Like the game is addictive. Third of all, I have hopes, maybe delusional hopes at this point because it's been years, that this game at one point will go in the right direction of a very, very skill-based and skill-gapped game with good gameplay, good content, good organizing of events, everything.
So you're
Like by
basically
that,
saying like the reason why you continue to play is because you're in the hopes of it being similar to basically Fortnite. Because people who play Fortnite as content creators or even as pro players, they get paid really well. Like at these events, right? Even if they get like 11th place, like they get enough consistently to make a really good living from it, and so on and so forth. So you want FIFA to be at a similar level in that regard.
yeah, of course. Like for me, uh, there are days I regret that I'm a competitive player on FIFA and not Fortnite. But like then I think like I love FIFA. I don't like Fortnite is a fun game, of course, but it's not the type of game I can go on every day. Although they run the game pretty well, I can go every day like on and like enjoy. Like I could, but I would rather much do that on FIFA because it's football. It's football. It's a game, a sport that I love. I'm passionate about, etc., etc. So if FIFA was any similar to Fortnite regarding content, um, feedback, competitions, prize pool, um, viewership, any one of these aspects, let alone all five of the ones I've just mentioned, we would be on another level.
Yeah, we
And like
would. Yeah.
imagine like the opportunities are endless. Like I don't know at what level in the structure of the EA hierarchy this has to change for this to become a reality. But like I know we have no saying on this. Like I know some of the game developers or managers community or whatever don't have a say in this, let alone some random players and streamers or whatever regarding FIFA. But like I have this delusional hope that this is going to go in the right direction at one point, which also saddens me because by the point that that happens, I don't see this happening in the next 2 years, 3 years. And if it happens eventually in like 4 or 5 years, it's going to be late for me to compete because I'll be like 26 ish, which is young normally, but like for FIFA and esports, it's like past the peak of your career. Like
Right. Yeah.
even if I would want a career out of this, which I'm not sure, but like even if you would want, it would be late for me. But I would rather take the considering I don't want to become a pro player. I would rather have the sacrifice and like work towards having a fun football real simulator like of the real sport where people can play for fun and compete and enjoy the game and lose to a better player and think I lost him because he's better, not because the game's shit or he has a better team or anything of this. Like that's my like ideal, that's my utopia of FIFA, you know? And if that could happen, I would gladly not play at any more events and just like commentate or like analyze or like help with anything regarding this structure because like I mean there's no reason for me to be as passionate about FIFA as I am except the fact I love football and I'm competitive. Like these are the two main reasons. I love football and I'm competitive. So and FIFA is the combination of both. It's football and it's competition. And like I constantly try to better myself at FIFA, which for me is very challenging considering that in my eyes the game is so random. I know you have players like Tex, which I don't know how he does it, qualifies for every event, gets to the final of the 3 events so far, won 2 of them. I don't know how he does it. Like for me that's impressive to say the least. But like for me this game is very random in a lot of aspects. And like it's hard for me to try to get better in some aspects of the game when it's as random as it is. You know what I mean?
when you're playing the game, you need to see it yourself when you're improving or not improving. Like if I play any other game, and this is something that I tell people all the time, like when I play any other game, like I know what situation I could have done to avoid a certain situation for me to play better at the game, and whether or not a select few people in the entire world can do this, right? Even if the gameplay is inconsistent or they don't have inconsistent gameplay, because that's a very huge possibility. There's a very huge possibility that they don't, because I've experienced it firsthand of 3 monitors. I told you guys in one of the videos of 3 monitors having more delay than the 4th one, right? So there's a huge possibility that people may not get as much inconsistent gameplay as a lot of people do. There's definitely a huge possibility of that. Then that's just kind of like where we're at right now, right? In terms of how FIFA is as a video game. Now, the thing that I want to touch up on, and again, so the reason why you play the game professionally is because, or you're not a pro player, but you play the game professionally, competitively, right? It's because you're a competitor and you like the sport, obviously, right? But I see some people in the chat saying, but it's their job, it's whatever they do, blah blah blah. People need to understand that this isn't a long-lasting effect in terms of being a competitor in a specific game. Like if you're a CSGO pro or you are a pro player in any sort of video game, it's not a long-lasting effect. You need to be able to make a really good amount of money from that competitive scene if you are a good player, and then when you hit the age of whatever it is that you decide to stop playing, you'll have enough money to be like, you know what, those years that I spent on that game weren't a colossal waste of time, right? And I'm sure that someone like Bruce Granick is probably in a situation like that, because Bruce Granick no longer plays this game professionally. Is he still a fantastic player? Obviously, he's a great player, and he also does do well with really shit teams, right? And in his point of view, when he used to play competitive FIFA back in the day, he's probably really happy where he's at. He's been a world champion, I think, what was it, 2 or 3 times in FIFA, and in PES as well, because this guy is not a mechanic abuser. This guy is a football IQ type player, right?
That's why he's not that good on 19, because that's not football.
Yeah, I barely see him on anymore because he doesn't want to play this game because of the meta. I know.
When
I've watched his
like,
gameplay.
Exactly what he says is like even starting from the team he's built, he's like, I could do better with the coins I have, but like the team I build is the one I enjoy because I have Messi, I have Ronaldo, I have players I enjoy watching in real life. I would rather lose a couple more games here and then than win games with a team that's full meta and I don't enjoy. And he does not abuse every attack first time finish shot. Of course, he does them every now and then, but pretty rarely.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
But like the passing plays he does, it's stupid to even consider doing them. Like just the amount of times in the passing plays he does, you could just pop a first time finesse and score. It's just stupid. And like the passing plays he does these extra passes which are a pleasure to watch, but they're just,
and he doesn't get rewarded for them.
Not FIFA 19.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes he doesn't even get rewarded for it. And it's a shame to see, because it's a pleasure to watch his streams because he doesn't get mad. Like, of course he gets annoyed, but he doesn't. He gets
annoyed,
mad.
But he doesn't get mad. Yeah, he does not. He's not like.
Of course.
He doesn't go psychotic like me, man.
No, you've never seen me play. I mean, bro. There was the first FUT Champions Cup, the first event. There was this one game I played, bro. I must have looked like the most. You
needed to go to a mental asylum. That's how bad it was,
bro. I was. Can you imagine an ape just in the wild, just punching the ground, like hitting shit? Like I was 4-1 up first game, 85th minute. The game ended 4-3, which changes the second leg. Instead of having 3 goals advantage, you have 1, so it changes everything. So at this point, after conceding 2 of the most bullshit ass goals, one of them deep in the 90th minute, so you can't even you can't do anything. I threw my headset. It fell apart, and you can imagine like the physical movement of me squatting and punching the floor with both my fists with all the strength I have in my body, while meanwhile screaming my guts out with competitors playing next to me and me not caring because this game has driven me insane. My mind. I started the second game. I conceded a left foot driven shot, which you know are brokenly not working. Left foot yellow driven shot with Patrick Vieira between Neuer's legs. I went ape shit. I went crazy. Like I won that game, and the moment I scored the goal in the 88th minute, I screamed like swearing. Like I was swearing at this game, not in a good way. And like after that, I went to my opponent. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry. Like genuinely. Like not the I'm sorry I scored a shit goal. I'm like, I'm sorry we have to compete in this. And like it should not happen. Like
Yeah, but back to Bruce Granick. The guy is, and I've mentioned this a billion times in the FIFA community. He's basically like an icon in the community because the one weekend that I watched him, I think he went. There was in the beginning of this game, he went 21-9 or 20-10 or some shit like that. I can't remember what it was. From a viewer's point of view, that's a bad result, especially for someone that's a world champion, right? But
exactly.
From a person who understands the game mechanics, right? That was the weekend I didn't play at all. So I was just like, you know what? Bruce Granick is on right now. I want to watch his gameplay. It's the only stream in FIFA. I don't even understand what the guy's saying. I just really like the attitude he has. He's such a cool guy, right? I was watching the games that he was playing, and I swear to God on my life, imagine someone like Bruce Granick having 10 losses and me being the viewer, right? Watching these games, he didn't deserve to lose a single one of those games. The amount of the sheer amount of 1v1s he missed when he took the right shot, took the extra angle, his players would miss the entire net. The finesse shots that the people scored against him, the goalie movement, the deflections that they got. Like Bruce, there was one game I watched that he lost where he had 5 amazing 1v1s, right? Medium distance away from the goalkeeper, took the extra touch on the inside, didn't score it, right? And then his opponent scored 3 different finesse shot deflections, finesse shots that he was aiming in his goal, right? So you know when your opponent is aiming at their own goal, they took the finesse shots, it deflected off of the defenders and landed right to his players, and Bruce Granick lost the game 4-2 because of that. And I was like, dude, that is ridiculous that he's losing because of shit like that. And then his chats like even the English speakers are like, oh my God, I can't believe you lose 4-2. Because the thing and this is why I respect him so much for being a calm guy. And the thing that's really, really, really irritating as a streamer playing this game for FUTchamp is when your chat is saying, I can't believe he lost 4-2, but they didn't watch the game properly and saw the opportunities that you created and watching you get fucked over, but the only thing that they see is the number on the screen. In FIFA nowadays, you can literally lose 4-0 against someone and you could still be a better player than them. That's how bad it is. It's that disgusting.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even because you just said it, he lost one game like this in Weekend League.
He lost more than like that, bro. Way more.
No. Just what I want to say, like, you're talking about Weekend League. I saw like exactly the exact situation with the long shot deflection and like 1v1 goal scored, costing a game in qualifiers, in golden goal. That happens. Imagine, like, you play qualifiers like exactly the ones on the weekend. You have a tight game. You get to golden goal, which also I'm not sure it should be a thing since there's kickoff in the game. And I'm gonna touch like quickly on this as well. And you concede a first time finesse that gets deflected and puts your opponent in a 1v1 and scores like just tapping it in. Like that what do you do? Like there's nothing you can do. And like the thing another thing about qualifiers that is also going to shock you, there's when you have a best of 2 in qualifiers, because that's how the rounds work, it's not a best of 1, and the game is tied. You don't go in like a silver goal how it used to be before, like halftime, and then you play golden goal. How it is now, you directly go to golden goal. And I mean, normally it would make sense from a football point of view because like you had that rule before in football, golden goal, etc. Like for FIFA, what we have to do is go on Discord in the competitive qualifier chat, because there's a chat, and ask the admin to do a coin flip onto which player has kickoff. Because you do not want to be in the position to play golden goal, having to defend, because that's how 50% of the games are decided. If you get to golden goal, you know if you don't get kickoff, you are most probably going to lose that game on kickoff. I've played 7 golden goals. I've won 6 of them, 4 of them on kickoff. And like you have aspects of the game breaking aspects of the game that decide days, qualifications, tournaments, and seasons. And like that, again, back to the competitive point of view and the gameplay point of view with kickoffs, deflections, shit goals, and shit meta, and just shit in general. Like IXLev would say. Just shit.
That's just ridiculous, man.
I mean, like, there's. I mean, I also don't know, because like I put it in my notes, because I don't know if you're aware of that. But also because we've talked about EA, that EA is a business, right? Because like since EA is a business, they also care about their image, right?
Yeah.
And what they've started doing lately, and it makes sense in a way, but not to the extent and the criteria they've put, started competing for a period of time. I'm sure you've seen it with Kurt, right?
Yeah.
So he got banned for whatever he got banned for, reasons, etc. He got banned for like 2 months. And you've seen his video where he does the racist analogy and the ban for 1 week, which is also true. But players get banned for the sake of being an example as to how EA are a serious company that does not tolerate certain specific things, just to show, I guess, to promote their image as a serious company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they stop people from competing, because you know, like, we're not going to extent of being racist or being homophobic or whatever, like, as a joke, because I can, like, if and I have I'm not going to put out the argument, I have a black friend so I can say this, like I have a gay friend so I can say that. Like, I'm not putting this
Yeah,
argument,
that's the
but
worst
like,
thing, yeah.
yeah, I'm not doing that, like, putting it out there. But like, I have, of course, like, gay friends, and I've given them examples of some of the things that people get banned for in the scene. And do you get offended by this? Like, if somebody says fag towards a virtual item in the game, do you get offended? Do you know the looks I get when I ask this question? It's like the look a COD player would give you when you explain to him how a loser's bracket works in FIFA.
Yeah.
That's the look I get. And they like, and okay, let's say that, like, you have pro players are afraid to stream just so that they do not let a joke between friends slip that would cost them a ban. Like, it's gotten to that level where,
Dude,
like,
the amount of shit that I hear like Crimsix say on a daily on Call of Duty streams, he would never
exactly,
compete a single day of his life in EA Sports.
exactly. So imagine you're playing FIFA with a friend on stream. You've invited a friend over, playing head to head, and your friend misses a 1v1, and you're like, "Oh, go jump off a bridge! You cannot be missing that! Ha ha ha!" And you just laugh both. Imagine that scenario. It could happen. It happens off stream, on stream, etc. And 1 week later, you receive an email. You're banned from competing in the next 2 weeks because you said this on stream.
Yeah.
Like, I see where it comes from, but it's to an extent that you should not be focusing on this. Like, you could be focusing on this if everything is perfect in your esport and in your game. And if that's the only aspect where you have to work on your image as a company, okay. But you cannot be like, you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
it should not be like this. Like one of the tens of aspects, dozens of aspects we've approached that should not be like this in the game. Like especially since you don't have equal criteria for a lot of things in this aspect. You don't have equal criteria in game with connection and servers. You don't have equal criteria for players regarding pay to win. You don't have equal criteria regarding treatment with bans. You don't have equal criteria with a lot of things. Like a lot of like regions are favored in some qualifiers. Consoles are well, consoles not really because PlayStation has a bigger user base, so there's not much you can do. But you just it should a lot of things should not work like how they're working right now.
Basically, like EA Sports is does not equal essentially.
Exactly.
It doesn't
like,
equal like in so many different aspects in terms of what their system criteria is like in terms of them banning people or whatever. Because in my opinion,
whatever,
right?
not even bans.
Just everything, like everything about the game, everything about them as a company. No, absolutely, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because I don't know, man. Like, for me, I look at the game from every single aspect, right? I got the words from a casual player yesterday, my boy Alberto. I get the words from you today as a competitive player, and from both sides, and without an influence of myself, I just give my 2 cents, and you could say whatever. You can disagree with me, right? We were talking about the manual gameplay before, and like, you know, we got to a certain point, and it's fine. You have your opinions, I have mine, right? But like, this was on the other podcast, guys. We're not really going to get much into that right now, but the thing that I've noticed is that the only people that are genuinely happy with this game, genuinely, are people that can, one, now win games and perform because they can abuse these time finesse shots, right? Because they no longer need a footballing IQ. They can't have their team carry them, or they can have their team carry them now because the finesse shots are so effective, because defensive AI is so effective, so on and so forth. That's one. The other group of people that will like this game is the market people, which is fine because we've always had a community of market guys, which is completely fine. I'm totally okay with it. I'm totally cool with all the market guys because that's their own community. But those are the only guys that like this game. It's the people that can abuse the game, and it's the people that can only use the market. Because I literally watch streamers nowadays, right? Never play the game. They don't play the game. I will watch someone be on stream for 10 hours. I will go to their past broadcast, skip past their past broadcast. They will be on stream for 10 hours, and they will literally play 1 or 2 games in the entire day. And it's crazy to me that some of these people are actually spending FIFA points on the game, because I don't know where those FIFA points are going. Because if you were doing it for a game like even FIFA Mobile, not even FIFA Mobile, because FIFA Mobile, you don't keep those cards. Next year it's gonna be refreshed, right? It just makes no sense to me seeing that in a gaming community. And that's why I mentioned this in the other podcast as well, is that it's not even the game being a joke. It's that in the gaming community, FIFA as a game and as a community, we're looked at as a joke because from a competitive point of view, we're looked at as a joke. From a stream point of view, we're looked at as a joke, because every streamer I've ever watched talk about FIFA, whether it's Dr. Disrespect, whether it's Summit, whether it's Lyric, I've literally listened to these guys because people always beg Lyric to play FIFA. And the first thing that Lyric says is like, I don't want to play a game that costs $90 where people don't care about people actually playing the game. Because every time I go on the FIFA, the broadcast, it's every single time it's people opening packs, right? When he's mentioning it. And then when he finds the gameplay guys, it's like guys he doesn't even know. It's like the European dudes just playing the game and stuff. So the state of where the game is at right now, we are looked at as a joke. Whether the people in the FIFA community itself wants to admit that or not, we are looked at as a joke. Because in the other communities, the stuff that happens in this game would be unacceptable. And this is the one thing we're gonna end off here, because the podcast is gonna kind of approach the hour 30 mark here, unless Nightwatch wants to add anything else. Is that I saw a tweet one time from a pro player. He knows who he is. Even if you guys clip this and send it to him, that's completely fine. I saw a tweet once from a pro player, and he sent a tweet saying to everyone that it's not EA's fault that people don't want to spend money to be able to compete on FIFA. You guys know which tweet that is. My first response to it was, I respect that you have your own opinion, but I think that opinion at this rate is not even an opinion, and it's completely flawed. Because that sort of concept, to be able to compete in a video game and to be able to compete anywhere, right, video game wise, is completely unacceptable to say that it's someone's fault that they're not spending money on FIFA. Because if someone spends money on FIFA and that money is not returned back from you trying to compete, it was a waste of money and it was a waste of time. Okay? In other games, everyone has equal opportunity because you're given every single aspect you need for you to be able to perform well and for you to be able to compete. And I think that mentality is not only from that one person. That mentality has spread like a virus throughout the community. That mentality, different types of mentality of oh, but because the gameplay has been inconsistent for years, you just accept it for how it is. That type of like infection, because that's what it is nowadays. That type of infection is just terrible nowadays, and that's why we're looked at as a joke in the community, in the gaming community scene in general, because of stuff like that. When someone says that it's your fault that you're not able to compete because you're not spending more than $5,000. And sometimes $5,000 is not even enough. You have to spend more than $5,000 to be able to compete in a video game, right? People don't even make $5,000 in 3 months, 4 months, right? It's ridiculous. Anything else you want to add, Nightwatch?
I mean, I can talk about FIFA for hours upon hours, just like you can, but like, for the sake of a podcast, not really. Like, we've kind of summarized most of the things we want to talk about. We could do one in the future after you've done a few, but like, I can talk about FIFA for ages.
Yeah, 100%, man. The game is just I don't know, man. I get it from your point of view from as a competitive player, because I don't know the competitive scene. I get the point of view from a casual player, and no one's happy but people that can abuse the game mechanics and just be able to be on the markets all day and avoid the gameplay at all costs. And it just sucks because a video game, especially a football game, is meant to be played, and the fact that people are avoiding it at all costs to create content on it because they have to is just a really shitty situation, because no one's happy. No one's happy but those two groups of people. But those two groups of people are not the transfer guys. The transfer guys are fine, but the group of people that like the game because now they can win games that they can never get top 100 back in the day, but they can get it now because their team can carry them, because they can just abuse these game mechanics to get results. I think those are the worst types of people to have in this community, and it just really, really sucks. So, you know, team of the year, it blows up all the time. You know, sorry, the other day Zaro and a bunch of others celebrating that FIFA peaked on viewership on Twitch, and I just didn't get it because it was all about pack opening. Exactly. For me personally, I think that's the shittiest thing in the world. I don't think that's where we should be happy with. The fact that that's where happiness comes from is from you opening packs for player. It doesn't make sense that opening the packs and then not using the players in game is a good concept to have. It just doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? But it's what EA wants, and it's what they're happy with, because the game is so based off of a business that it makes sense that it's gotten to this point.
See, the thing is, a last thing before we end. Like, from a business point of view, it makes sense, okay? But like, you see from games like Fortnite, like League of Legends, like Counter-Strike, the amount of money you can make from customization, like from again, I forgot the word, but you know what I mean. Like, the amount of money you could make, be it in Ultimate Team, in pro clubs or whatever, just by adding different boots, fans, different ad boards, different kits, different, even if it's only for you, like in FUTchamps, you only see your kits, right? Like, even if you do it like this, I would, like, casuals would enjoy playing on a blue pitch. Like, let them play on a pink and white pitch if they want to have fun, but have them pay for it. Like, do not affect the gameplay. Have them play with no boots. if they want to, if that's how they want to
No,
have
that
fun.
would just get ridiculous.
Yeah,
Those
but
cosmetic
only,
things I get, but it's
yeah, but
only on their screen.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. But even only for them, like not for the opponent to see, like on their screen. You know, just to have fun, like even to, because that for me would be a bit better aspect than the pay to win. Like yeah, I mean, I went a bit too far maybe with the no
Yeah,
boots, but
you're just spitting ideas.
you,
No, I get it. I
yeah,
get it.
you get the point.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Uh, but yeah, like just have the changes that do not affect your in-game performances, and just test it out to see how that impacts your business, and if it's enough to somewhat change the money flow in that direction from the pay to win aspect in the game. So at the same time, you have an esport, and you still have the revenue from a business point, like from a business perspective. Like that's very complicated, of course, but like it's just an idea that I haven't seen being even thought about in the past 4 years, because I've started playing FIFA competitively, or like kind of seriously, on FIFA 15, 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what all the hype was around Prime Yashin when he was announced, because he had the hat in game. So like the
That
first year
was the
he was
big
in
deal.
game.
It's like, oh my god, he has a
Exactly.
hat. Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I get what you mean, man. But yeah, dude, it was fun having you on the podcast. I think we're
Thanks
gonna
for
end it
having me.
there.
Thanks for having me.
We had some good conversations. It opened up our minds a little bit about the competitive scene and stuff. I hope the chat enjoyed it. I hope the YouTube channel enjoyed it. I think we're just gonna call it there though. But thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. And thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys watching. I will catch you guys for the next video, whether it's another podcast or anything of the sorts. And I'll catch you guys for the video tomorrow. Peace out, my dudes. Love you guys.